That's always a very interesting question to me because the answer is not typically what people expect. Welcome him? Do I integrate him back into my life? I was running that time. It was not an immediate Hi, I'm Misty Flowers. This past week I uploaded a song called Where Were You? I've been asked a lot of questions about it, so I decided to go ahead and feature it this week on Behind the Song. This song is my story. It's how I experienced growing up in a home without my biological father present. He left when I was 3 years old. So I knew my dad and I loved my dad. And I watched him drive out of the driveway, watched him drive down the street, and knew that he was never coming back. And that had a lifelong impact on me. So, this is an invitation to you just to come sit at my table, listen to the song, hear the story, and maybe kind of get an insight into the way a child responds, at least how I responded as a child. Why did I write this song? That's always a very interesting question to me because the answer is not typically what people expect. I don't generally sit down and say, I want to write a song about childhood abandonment. I don't necessarily want to write a song, about some traumatic event that happened in my life. Songs have a way of saying, now is the time to tell the story. So when I sit down to write a song, the song is already there and says, my turn. So why did I write this song? Because the song said, it's time to tell your story. Yes, this song is 100% my life story. This is how I experienced not having my father growing up from a child's point of view all the way through to adulthood when he did come back and I was presented with the option. Do I welcome him? Do I integrate him back into my life? I hadn't healed from my childhood trauma because that's what it was. And that was a difficult moment in my life to decide whether or not to forgive and forget, to forgive and not forget, to not forgive, you know what? And so this is the story, all from my perspective, how I responded to it. Why didn't I write a book? Well, you know what? I do write books, and people know that. So that's why I get asked this question, because I do write children's books. But the answer is I did. I wrote this book. In fact, I wrote this book 3 times. I wrote it, I deleted it. I wrote it again, I deleted it. And I wrote it again and I deleted it. Because this story didn't want to be told in book format. It just didn't. So that book story is gone. And I sat back and I just waited. And I thought, well, if it wants to be told, it'll be told in the way that it needs to come out. And then one day, as I said earlier, the song was present and said, okay, this is how I want to come into the world. And that's why I wrote a song instead of a book. Did we reconcile? Yes, we did. I would like to say that we built a strong, beautiful relationship with each other and we had a tight bond and we're very, very close friends. I cannot say that it didn't happen that way, but we did make peace with each other. I forgave him and attempted in the best way that I could to bring him back into my life. But I'll be 100% honest. There was so much damage done as a child that I had to keep him at a distance because I didn't trust him. and I couldn't get past that. That's my experience. I hope and pray that that is not everybody's experience who have the opportunity to reconcile with their estranged parent. But for me, it was almost 30 years before he showed back up. And by that time, I couldn't go back. So in the video, you see an image of a little girl who's running through a field of wildflowers. And that is symbolic because, he made the choice to leave when I was a child, 3 years old. And when he came back all those years later, I was the one that said, you can be my friend, but you can't be my dad. And for me, then that was me turning and leaving. I was running that time. It was not an immediate reconciliation. It took several years following that before I was able to say, okay, we can really be friends because I do love you, because you are my father. And I don't want to ruin an opportunity to know you. But can I say that we became great friends? Close buddies? No, we didn't. And I think I will always regret that. How do I feel about it now? Well, now I'm on the other side. Now I am a healed person, and I can look back at the events of my life, particularly this one, and say, I see what happened. I understand why it happened, because I learned a lot about why he did what he did, what he was going through at the time, what the world was going through at the time, the kind of lifestyle that he was living at the time, the stress that he was under. And none of that is or are excuses, but at the same time, I have a understanding as an adult now that I could not possibly have understood as a child or a teenager or even as a young adult. I didn't even have words to be able to express how I was feeling, much less be able to comprehend the whole entire picture of what was happening during that phase of my life. Now I can look back at it and go, not that it's okay, because it's never okay to abandon your child from my perspective, but I can forgive, and I have forgiven, and I have moved on, and I look back at it and I see the contributions that that experience made into shaping me and how I see the world. In the beginning, I had a lot of trust issues. I had relationship issues. I had those things going on because that's just a fact. That's how abandonment shows up in adults. Now I have taken that, I've worked through it, I've healed from it. I'm on the other side of it. I'm not triggered by it anymore. So now I feel like I'm a whole person. And that experience contributed into me becoming the grown woman who fights fiercely for my children. And I feel so incredibly blessed that the generational pattern of abandonment that has gone down through my family line stopped with me. And I said, I will absolutely not put my children through this. They will know their mama loves them, and their mama will walk with them through whatever comes their way. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. So, had I not been through that, would I have that perspective today? I don't think so. So, on the one hand, my heart breaks for that little girl that went through it. But on the other hand, I feel like it made me into a very strong woman today. And I am able to be for my children who my father was not able to be for me. And so, for that, if I look at it from that perspective, it was a blessing in its own way. And I choose to look at it that way. Well, if you made it to the end, I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And I really hope to see you again on the next episode of Behind the Song. If you like this type of content, would you please subscribe to the channel and let me know? Leave comments if you like. We can have discussions. That would be great. So until the next one, thank you again, and I'll see you soon on Behind the Song.